Oh, hey, it looks like I got a call from my favorite online provocateur, Saint Himmler. Saint Himmler, how are you?
I'm doing excellently, Jimmy. It's a pleasure to speak to you again. Although I may despise what you stand for, I respect you greatly as one alpha gentleman to another.
Oh, well, thank you, Saint Himmler, and I assure you the feeling is not mutual. So what's going on these days in the world of the online alt-right?
Actually, I wouldn't really know, Jimmy.
What?
Yeah, I wouldn't designate myself as all right anymore so much. We did what we set out to do, which was get Trump elected using a cartoon frog. And we did that, and now he's burning the world down, which is what we wanted. So, mission accomplished. Identifying as all right anymore is just sort of boring. At some point you have to pull up stakes and move on to other corners of 4chan,
I see. Well, what are you now? I mean, I assume you have to have some kind of online identifier, right?
Well, of course. It's not like I stopped being a person. I'm incel now, Jimmy. Incel, all the way.
What?
Incel.
Who?
Incel, baby. Involuntarily celibate. Incel is a radical, violent, Reddit and 4chan-based online congregation of young men who have been perpetually and permanently sexually rejected by women. Dry dicks for life, dude.
So you were behind the Toronto van attack recently and the Santa Barbara mass shooting 4 years ago?
You got it, Jimmy. As opposed to other lame white male online extremisms, we incel have actual terrorism.
How exciting.
I know. Guys who can't get attention from women throw giant temper tantrums about it and kill people. Isn't that the coolest thing you've ever heard?
Yeah, you seem pretty happy about this.
Oh, ecstatic, Jimmy. Ecstatic. I really feel like I've come home,
How so?
Well, when I was all right, I had to do that thing they all do where they pretend like they've had sex before, like a lot, that their penis is average size, they have a bunch of girlfriends, which is ridiculous because they're all virgins, all of them, even the married guys. But that macho thing is a big part of that world. Remember how I used to call you cock all the time?
Cuck? Yes, I remember.
Yeah, I'd say that constantly, and I didn't even really know what it meant. I was a fraud. We all were. But now with incel, the fact that I've never gotten close enough to a girl to smell her perfume makes me powerful. We're all in the same pool of rage together. It's beautiful. And now all the Chads and Stacys are gonna get it.
Chads and Stacys?
Oh, yeah, that's part of incel lingo. Chads that means it's a type of guy that women want to sleep with. And Stacys are women who have sex. So, think like, jocks and cheerleaders, sort of. And they're going to get it.
You do know that all sorts of people have sex, right? Not just good-looking, popular people.
Sounds like someone hasn't taken the red pill yet. Keep living in your fantasy world, Chad, until we blow it all up, every last bit of it.
So you're going to kill all sexually active people on Earth via terrorist attacks that kill 5 to 20 people at a time?
Yeah.
Saint Himmler, when you start getting into those online movements, is there ever a moment of self-awareness where you think, maybe this is kind of sad and lame?
Hello, what the hell is sad and lame about owning a bunch of Chads and Stacys?
Look,
as a Chad yourself, you're never going to understand. But for those of us who had never been with a woman through no fault of our own, even though we're awesome, for those of us who waited and waited for the changes that puberty promised but never delivered.
Wait, what?
Those of us who got Donald Trump elected and then swore off women forever because they suck and are a bunch of sluts. This online fortress of incels is the closest thing to a warm vagina we'll ever experience. and we're not leaving. And the rest of you will live in fear forever of our wrath.
No, I'm pretty sure the rest of us will just have sex.
Mock away, Normie. But the day of the rope will come soon. If you're respectful, I may have you spared because of our shared history.
Hey, if you want to declare war on men who have sex, what makes you think you'd win? By definition, we have all the strong guys, all the wealthy guys, and all the smart guys. Those are all things women like.
Oh, yeah? Huh. I bet you think you have all the funny guys, too, because women love a sense of humor.
Yeah, no one thinks that, actually.
Oh, for real? Yeah, because we got this one guy over here who's super hilarious. You should hear him, but, he's like, really ugly.
Yeah, women aren't going to sleep with him. Trust me, I've seen this a lot.
Right, okay. Well, Jimmy, the next time we talk, who knows? I may have moved on to a completely different online hellhole community full of young, angry white males seething with malevolence. But for the time being, I am squarely amongst the most vile and dangerous of them all. Incel.
All right, St. Himmler, good to know.
The day of the rope is coming, normies.
Goodbye.
Incel. By the time someone explains to you what it means, it's already too late.
Jimmy Dore. Know why I don't go to parties? Because I'm not a snob. And another thing, you get all that? It's not because I don't get invited much, or at all. Anyway, 2 large margarita pizzas, gluten-free crust this time, fellas, all right? My bowels can't take it. Sweet Jesus. Bowels can't take it. Talking to none other than Sarah Huckabee Sanders the other day at a party. And I says to her, I just want to get my big hands around Jim Acosta's neck. Just like I did with the wife. Why, you ask? Because I don't like being laughed at during sex. And I could easily see Jim Acosta doing that. Writes itself. What kind of man am I in bed, you ask? I'm a man who likes to improvise. I like to do it live. No spin there. I'm very gentle in bed. Matter of fact, I'm so gentle I commonly fall asleep before paying. Tip of the day. Heads would have rolled if I had been at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. And I wouldn't have strangled Jim Acosta with my big hands. Just to scare him. And just to be funny. And it would be funny. I know all about comedy. Here's a joke. Hey, Jimmy, what's the secret to comedy? I don't know, Bill. What's the secret to comedy? Here's the answer. Time. Ming. You ruined my joke. Or was that the joke? Deep. I don't want to hurt Jim Acosta. Just want to scare him with my big hands. There's a significant difference between scaring someone and hurting them. The former leaves much less evidence, whereas the latter requires marriage. And yes, I have big hands. You're welcome. I do not say this as an insult to our president, but if you're going to strangle something, you need big hands. However, I do have the feet of a delicate angel. Weird how people are outraged over my threat to strangle Jim Acosta, when journalism would be far better off if we both fell over a cliff in one of those Star Trek death holds. And who gives a crap, right? I often stand next to the little lady with my big hands. What's the problem? Because I'm not a snob. My overgrown booth head and big clown-sized hands say nothing about my personality. As you know, I have a very successful series of killing books. But no accusatory chicks are going to ruin my career. Make no mistake, this will not stand. This ends here. I will be back. I shall return. Mission will be accomplished. So don't worry about me. I always manage in the last act to pull it out. Oops. And what's this about DJ Khaled refusing to eat pussy?
Sprite te canta las cosas como son. Por eso te aseguramos que algo te va a arruinar los planes. Cuando estás bien enchulá y te dejan por texto. Cuando crees que tienes la casa para ti solo, no falla que llegue alguien. Tampoco falla que pase algo cuando estás en tu primer día de vacaciones. O cuando estabas a punto de llegar temprano. Lo único que puedes hacer es picharle al mal rato. Sprite, las cosas como son.
Big, super huge story yesterday in the mainstream media about Russia and WikiLeaks. And turns out everybody had their head up their ass as usual. This is how it's almost embarrassing for me to even bring. Ron, this is how it goes all the time. Big headline. We got him. Russia and Trump. Bam. And then, Trump Jr. met with a Russian lawyer to get stuff. Oh, blah, 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 blah. Oh, guess what? The dossier has all the. Oh, guess what was the last one? WikiLeaks. WikiLeaks sent an email to Trump Jr. Or they had a secret.
With
exchange.
a code in it.
There was, no, that's this one. But the one before was
they
had
a
secret.
Was the Twitter thing.
They had a Twitter thing. They had a secret exchange of information. You mean they direct message each other on Twitter? So there was that one, and that turned out to be, again, nothing. And then this one yesterday, but they all ran with. So
yeah, this time they don't just have egg on their face. They have an entire omelet.
Yes.
Not just any omelet, but one that was featured on Man vs. Food. Like, they really messed up this time.
In June, a couple of top CNN reporters got fired for a misreported story about Trump and Russia.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that?
Yes.
Just last week, Brian Ross got suspended for 4 weeks for dropping another fake story, or was it week before last? So within the last 2 weeks, ABC reporter got suspended for a month for doing this exact thing. And now here we are the next week, CNN doing the exact, again, oh my God, we got him. You remember we showed Joy Reid? Remember her?
Oh.
Remember Joy Reid? We showed her reading, they got him. So now there's this. And the way Glenn Greenwald describes it in The Intercept is the U.S. media yesterday suffered its most humiliating debacle in ages, and now refuses all transparency over what happened. So so he goes in to talk. We're going to talk a little bit about, but let's show you the news report. So here's the news report.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kate Baldwin. More emails, more problems for Donald Trump Jr. and the Russia investigation. CNN has exclusive new details about a message sent in the final stretch of the 2016 campaign offering access to hacked WikiLeaks documents. A previously undisclosed effort to reach Donald Trump himself, his son, and his inner circle just weeks before the election. This comes, of course, on top of other new evidence of follow-ups to the famous Trump Tower meeting between Don Jr. and a Russian lawyer. Follow-ups that he had promised when he had promised there weren't any. Let's get over to CNN's senior congressional correspondent, Manu Raju. Manu, there's a lot that you have gotten in the past day plus. Lay out your new reporting today on this effort to give Trump access to WikiLeaks documents.
Can you lay out your reporting that you actually didn't fact check and you actually didn't see the email that you were about to report on? Can you lay it on us? Lay us on your incorrect facts about the reporting. You actually didn't see the email. Here we go.
Well, Kate, this email on September 4th, 2016 was sent to Donald Trump, then candidate Donald Trump Jr., and others in the Trump organization, including Donald Trump Jr.'s personal secretary. And in this personal assistant, I should say, and in this email, it actually has a decryption code and a link to a web address where purportedly they could have received the hacked WikiLeaks documents. Included in this, it says that they could also receive the hacked Colin Powell emails, the former...
Boy, this guy has a hard time talking. No kidding, huh?
Well, can I put on a quick side note that I think is worth mentioning? As of right now, unless something changed as of yesterday, because Brian Stelter, the quote-unquote watchdog over at CNN, this reporter is not going to face any consequences. According to CNN, they followed due process because they had these two random protected sources.
So if you listen to what he's saying, what he's trying to say, and he's saying it so garbled, this guy is for a reporter. This guy can't communicate worth a crap. Could he put more "us" in there? There was the 4th of September. They had to Trump and Trump Jr. Am I? I know I'm exaggerating to make a joke, but am I overreacting to how horrible this guy is explaining the story?
I think it was pretty clear. There was correspondence when they said there wasn't correspondence, and the correspondence might be the correspondence they're looking for the correspondence. Aren't you?
With a link.
Let's listen to a little bit more.
Secretary of State, whose own emails were hacked and were released 10 days later by a Russian front group. Now, the timeline is important here because on September 4th, that was after a month.
Now, the timeline is important here. The timeline is important here because we're getting it wrong. That's why it's important.
That's awesome.
And by the way, this guy, they have all the money in the world, all the assistants. You know who helps us do our research here? Me and Ron and Steph. Okay? That's it, right? So if one of us aren't, he has assistant. They have a newsroom. They have a newsroom of people. And nobody said, hey, did you see the email? And when he said no, they go, well, why don't we wait till we see the email and we can double check the date on it? No, look, let's just go with it. You haven't seen the email? No, but your source has, yes? Why couldn't your source show you the email? Right? So nobody, double check this. So here we go.
We're protecting them.
So look at this. So July 22nd, WikiLeaks posts hacked emails. September 4th, email sent to Trump Jr., offering key for hacked WikiLeaks. That did not happen. There was an email. So just so you understand what happened, the day WikiLeaks dumped the emails, they also someone sent an email to the Trump campaign saying, hey, check out all these documents. And here's an encryption key. And it was sent. It was sent by a guy no one knows. No one knows who this guy is. And so why is that important? So if it was sent on that day, that's a full 10 days before WikiLeaks dumped all that stuff. So that would mean they were giving information before they released all this stuff. Mm-hmm. And so when people then make the leap, they go, well, if WikiLeaks was working with the Trump campaign, well, WikiLeaks, we know, was working with Russia, so Trump and Russia. By the way, news organizations get to communicate with whoever they want to communicate with. Just so that's clear, okay? News organizations get to send emails to Russia. They get to send emails to the president. They get to send emails to other news organizations. They get to send emails to anybody they want.
People running for president, they probably send emails to them.
They can send emails for people running for president. So, and then, anyway, so let's keep going.
So,
the DNC.
You know what, Jimmy? I just wanted to say, so CNN's exclusive is just nothing. There's no exclusive here to see, everybody. Just a lot of made-up facts.
Yes. Well, they got it wrong.
Well, you know,
they got the date wrong on the email. They didn't look at the email themselves, and then they ran and published it. So they didn't double-check it. They got it wrong. You know, especially after they just fired some top reporters for getting something wrong already this past summer. And then how ABC just had to suspend Brian Ross, and then that's you know, how about Rachel Maddow? Well, we've got his tax returns, we've got the dossier. It's just one false thing after another, and so now CNN doing their best to make Trump's fake news thing stick. You got to be better than the president. You got to be better than the other people. You got to actually look at the email you're reporting on.
Can I tell you that what Manu Raju's correction statement was?
Well, here it is. This is
okay.
I'm going to show you in a second.
Great.
Was hacked, and after their own emails became leaked, and it was a month before Clinton campaign chairman John Podesta's emails were leaked by WikiLeaks, and it was also a couple weeks before WikiLeaks was corresponding with Donald Trump Jr. on Twitter via direct messages. Now, the person who sent this email is someone by the name of Mike Erickson. We don't know who this individual is, and the congressional investigators themselves don't know who this person is either.
So I don't know who sent this email. The congressional investigators have no idea who sent or who this is, and you don't even know what the date is of it. You got the date wrong. You don't know who the guy is, but you're definitely sure that what's in the email is 100% factual. Isn't that weird?
It's weird that he doesn't have any time to figure out who his source is. No access?
Well, that's what Glenn Greenwald's saying in his piece today is that they're not revealing who these people are who gave them false information.
Right.
So who is this? Well, let's keep going a little bit.
But Mike Erickson sent this email to Donald Trump Jr. Saying that they could access these documents. And Donald Trump Jr. was asked about this, Kate, at the House Intelligence Committee's classified hearing earlier this week. And when he said he had no recollection of this email exchange. Now, the attorney for Donald Trump Jr. just put out a statement responding to our latest report saying this. We understand that the media reported 12 hours prior to this email that the DNC emails have been hacked or leaked. We do not know who Mike Erickson is. We have no idea who he is. We never responded to the email. But interestingly, Kate, on the same day that Donald Trump Jr. received this email was the first time that he appears to have tweeted about WikiLeaks. This is what he tweeted on.
Okay, this is all false. They're just again false. And then he tweeted this that day. They like to do that when they do these kind of stories. They go, yeah, but then he had this, so that's all this stuff that should be suspicious. We don't know what the F it means. Doesn't mean anything. Trump Jr. tweeted about WikiLeaks that day.
They're trying to fish for all these connections. They're just trying to be like, and that was the first day he tweeted about WikiLeaks. Yeah. And then that was the second day that Kevin Bacon tweeted about this. They're just trying to make all these connections.
So let's see a little bit more of this.
That day, September 4th, WikiLeaks, Hillary Clinton sent thousands of classified cables marked C for confidential, including a link there to WikiLeaks. So Julian Assange himself has tweeted about our story also, saying it is not clear what this has to do with WikiLeaks. But I can tell you, Kate, this appears to follow a pattern of the way that WikiLeaks provides this kind of information, giving this decryption key and a website link.
Wow.
Whether this happened here, we don't know. And we also it doesn't appear that the Trump campaign or anybody contacted the FBI after they received this email. They said they just didn't act on it and didn't respond, Kate.
And to be clear, Don Jr. says he doesn't recall seeing this email.
Yeah, he doesn't recall seeing this email. He said, and then his lawyer said he took no action on it. So that's where we stand right now. That's what we testified under oath.
So separately, but I guess all connected, these previously unknown follow-up emails.
So everything's connected. Everything's connected. So here he is. So he had to come and so here he is with his statement correcting his reporting. And again, I watched this before, and he's not a clear speaker. Let me put it this way. I'll put it that way. This guy's too many ums and ahs, and you don't understand what he's saying. So here we go.
That we have been reporting throughout the day today about an email that was sent to the Trump campaign, to then candidate Trump, Donald Trump Jr., and others during the heat of the campaign season. This email included a decryption key and also a link to where they could
also a link and a decryption email. I'm sorry, this guy's not clear speaker. I don't know what he's talking about. What do you want to You want to clarify? Hey, the story we reported earlier that said there was an email sent on September 4th. It wasn't. It was sent on September 14th, which totally blows our story away. So that's all he had to say. But listen to all this garbage. I'm going to start it at the top.
We're actually correcting a story that we have been reporting throughout the day today about an email that was sent to the Trump campaign, to then candidate Trump, Donald Trump Jr., and others during the heat of the campaign season. This email included a decrypted.
During the heat of the campaign season. Why are you adding all this extraneous info during the heat of the campaign season?
It certainly doesn't sound like a correction.
It doesn't
right?
sound like a correction.
It sounds like he's just saying we had a correction, and I'm going to tell you every single fact and detail
Before
that
I
I
get
try
to the correction. It's like start with the correction.
And you notice even on the crawl or anything, they're not even saying correction. And I like how Glenn Greenwald writes. He goes, how did CNN end up aggressively hyping such a spectacularly false story? And look at what's happening right now.
So let's go back.
Key, and also a link to where they could access some of these hacked WikiLeaks documents from the Democratic National Committee. Now, we've been reporting that this email came on September 4th.
That's exactly right, Steph.
That's what he should have said.
Now, we've been incorrectly reporting. He didn't say that.
That was before some of these documents were publicly available, but we have just obtained a copy of this email. And instead...
the email we've been reporting about, that we've been hyping like crazy?
That they just received.
The thing we've been hyping like crazy? Well, another news agency went and hadn't got that email, the Washington Post. And so now we got it from them. That's who broke that. They got the story wrong. It was the Washington Post broke it that they got it wrong. They had the email. So now we have the email. How come the Washington Post could get a hold of that email and CNN, the most trusted name in news, can't get a hold of that email? Would be what. So now I saw an ad for CNN that said apples are apples.
Yes.
Did you get a
And
source?
no matter if you say it's a banana, it doesn't matter.
It's
but
still
apparently
an apple.
It's still an apple, but except that it's a banana.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We now learned that this email was on September 14th. So that is 10 days later than what we originally reported earlier today. And this appears to change the understanding.
10 days later that we previously reported today. What are you talking about?
Again, it's just he couldn't be more convoluted the way you're trying to explain your mishap. You're being as fucking convoluted as possible.
Yes, and somebody behaves that way in a couple situations. A, they're incredibly nervous. This guy's a reporter for CNN. I doubt that's the case. B, they're lying.
I don't know what he certainly doesn't want to say, wow, we really screwed up and we were over again. We did a horrible thing. And he tries to put all these words in between. Well, now, we originally reported that it was 10 days earlier, but it turns out it was at this day. So that kind of changes the fundamental misunderstanding of it. But we were understanding that what the F? Arno, you're a regular person, right? You're
regular person,
Arno.
Arno, does this seem crazy to you? Yeah, okay.
Arno says it's crazy.
Brian Ross get suspended for 4 weeks, and this guy still gets to go back on television.
I don't know.
They're saying that the watchdog himself is claiming that he followed due process. This reporter followed due process.
So let's
Then
listen
it's a
to
bad due process.
Let's listen to
Amen.
the rest.
This story, because initially it seemed perhaps they were being offered access to documents that were not yet publicly available. But in this email from an individual named Michael Erickson, they do direct the Trump campaign to some publicly available documents, hacked documents from WikiLeaks, as well as from the former Secretary of State.
So he just hacked documents. They do direct the Trump campaign to these hacked documents. They do have the hacked document. What the F? So he's still trying to say, hey, it's mostly true. That's what he's doing.
Colin Powell saying that those documents are indeed available. Now, our initial reporting on that September 4th date was based on 2 sources who had seen this email, but that information was incorrect now based on...
They won't tell us who those 2 sources are. Nope. So that's what Glenn Greenwald's saying in his report today, that if you're going to get it wrong, you have to be transparent and tell us what happened. Who were your sources? And as just a couple of weeks ago, do you remember the Veritas, right? They tried to push false information to the Washington Post about Roy Moore. So they tried to push false information to the Washington Post to discredit the Washington Post, right? Because they knew the information was false. You get them to print it. They did the same thing to Dan Rather. That's how they get rid of Dan Rather. They gave incorrect information that was it was a phony document with true information. So they go, oh, that's a phony document you reported. So they're doing the same thing here. So Glenn Greenwald says, you got to tell us who those. So the Washington Post outed who those off the record. They go, hey, we're going to give you some information off the record. Normally you keep everybody's secret when they say off the record, except those people from Veritas were trying to deceive the Washington Post. So they outed them. The Washington Post said, here is the person who was trying to give us false information. Here's our false information source. And they outed them, which you're supposed to. So what he's saying is that their two sources gave them false information. Who are those sources? That's what Glenn Greenwald says. Well, if they gave you false information, you should out them. Who gave you the false information? Two sources? He goes, we checked it with two sources. Who are they? They gave you false information, probably on purpose. Who are they? They're not going to tell us. And that's bullshit. And that is bullshit. So there's more to this.
A copy of the email that we have obtained this afternoon. So, Brooke, it just shows that perhaps the initial understanding of what this email was perhaps is not as significant.
He kept saying perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Okay.
So it may, perhaps, it might not be, perhaps. You don't even know who the guy was. You saw it's a different date. It has a totally different meaning.
If he had
you fucking liar. It has a totally different meaning. Now that's lying.
If he had a watch on his hand, he'd be looking to see how far until commercial. He's just filling the time with words.
Yes.
And he knows he has to backpedal, and he knows he has to bullshit. And I can't help but think that maybe they knew this all along.
Well, go ahead, Steph.
Well, I was just thinking that congressional reporter Manu Raju,
yeah,
I think he has a new show called Unreliable Source.
Ah, bam! Bam! Steph was like, hey, Zamorano. Let's see some more how he fills time before the commercial. That, by the way, so what he just did when he said, perhaps this changes the understanding, you know it changes the meaning of your report 1,000%.
It kills the story.
So you reporting it the way you just reported it, you're still trying to confuse. So here's why it's horrible. What they're doing is trying to bullshit their own viewers who look to them for information. So he's trying to BS them right now. Perhaps this changes the meaning. So he's saying it in a way that's convoluted so nobody can follow what he's saying. We're pointing that out to you right there. So he's being dishonest in the way he's trying to correct his bad reporting. And now he's totally being dishonest. When you say it perhaps changes the meaning, and you say perhaps, how many times did he say perhaps?
Noon. So, Brooke, it just shows that perhaps the initial understanding of what this email was perhaps is not as significant as what we know now based on this email. We do know that Donald Trump Jr., when he testified before the House Intelligence Committee, was asked about this email. He said he had no knowledge of it, which we were.
It's funny how he can push certain words. He can push certain words, but perhaps our reporting was not right.
Perhaps.
But he denied. What is he doing?
Reported earlier as well, and his attorney said he did not act on the offer to obtain these hacked emails. That's a statement that they continue to say today. But this email came on September 14th, not September 4th, as we said earlier, Brooke.
As we reported earlier.
Perhaps we've agreed that 24 hours are in a day, and perhaps more days had passed than what we let on.
Go back. We have updated this video to include the correct date and present the proper context of the timing of the email. So that's from CNN. Now, it gets better. MSNBC ran with this story, so you go, oh, well.
I bet they did.
It's not their fault. Somebody else reported it. That's a credible news source, so they just reported a credible news source's reporting? No, that's not what happened. What happened was this. The MSNBC independently verified that bullshit report. You think I'm kidding? Let's watch.
It's coming into our NBC newsroom right now. Congressional investigators are trying to figure out who sent an email that gave Donald Trump, his son, and others a decryption key for hacked WikiLeaks documents. I want to bring in NBC News intelligence and national security correspondent Ken Delanian. Ken, tell us what we've just now learned. I know you and some of our colleagues have just confirmed some of this information. What's up?
That's right, Hallie.
You and some of your colleagues have just confirmed this information. So that's how she intros it. You've confirmed this. Here we go.
Two sources with direct knowledge of this are telling us that congressional investigators have obtained an email from a man named Mike Erickson. Obviously, they don't know if that's his real name, offering Donald Trump and his son, Donald Trump Jr., access to WikiLeaks documents. This was about September 2016, right in the middle of the campaign, when WikiLeaks was putting out some documents, hadn't put out other documents. Remember, the Russians had hacked the Democrats and handed this stuff over to WikiLeaks.
Remember.
So he just reports that as fact now. Remember, the Russians had hacked. Did you hear that? Did you hear what he just said?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Was putting out some documents, hadn't put out other documents. Remember, the Russians had hacked the Democrats and handed this stuff.
That's just a fact now, I guess.
Yeah, that's just an assumption there. Yeah. I mean, that's been the case for a long time now.
You know what?
Over
This
at
is horrible
at
because
MSNBC.
That's stunning that they report it that way. That is I mean,
what's stunning?
I've always heard those mealy mouth words around it, those qualifiers. Now, remember, as reported, Russia, or as our intelligence agencies say, I've heard it reported. I've never heard it just straight up reported as a fact. That's amazing. That guy should be fired too.
Well, yeah, Jimmy, I'm sitting here as you're revealing one story after another, skimming Glenn Greenwald's article, and you go like this. You're like, why are you continuing to give Donald Trump all this ammunition about fake news?
Yeah, how miserably do you have to fail to almost make the Trump administration look like victims?
Can you stop? Can I just have a question for the mainstream news media? Could you stop reporting on Russia and start reporting on the tax bill and start reporting on 30 million people still left out of health insurance, half the country poor or low income? Could you start reporting on that?
How about start reporting on Yemen? Start reporting on the losses that the people are facing in Syria. How about those things?
How about Flint, Michigan?
How about anything? How about report? There's a million things you could be talking about. Except what you're doing here is propping up Donald Trump, like you always have, by the way. You do it wittingly and unwittingly.
Yes.
You prop up Donald Trump. And guess what? You all don't give a shit. Well, that's Moonves, the head of CBS, said, go, baby, go. Go, Donald. He's bad for America, but he's good for CBS. That guy should be fired for that. That's unbelievable that he did that. He didn't give any qualifiers. He didn't say, as you know, as has been reported, or as the CIA has said, or our intelligence, our 17, you remember that lie? The 17 intelligence communities, which was a lie. So one lie, like there's nothing there, and they just keep repeating lie. So you keep getting caught. This helps Trump.
Isn't Chuck Todd their editor-in-chief at NBC?
I don't know.
Over to WikiLeaks. So the issue here is congressional investigators do not know whether this was a legitimate, real overture from WikiLeaks. But one of the sources told me they presume that Robert Mueller knows and can get to the bottom of that through the technology and the intelligence resources he's got at his command. But
So she introduces the piece by telling him that you've confirmed this independently. He just said that he didn't. That we don't know if this even came from Didn't he just say that?
Yeah.
He just said we don't even know if this came from WikiLeaks. So how is that independently confirmed? He just admitted that we don't know, but Robert Mueller knows. This goes for reporting, by the way. This is how MSNBC, this passes for reporting on MSNBC these days, where they go, we're gonna get something. That's their whole report. Mueller knows. It's all gonna be bad.
And the more
Trump.
convoluted it is, the more graphs we'll draw, so you won't know.
Wow.
it was a real overture from WikiLeaks. Obviously, it raises a host of questions. It goes to the heart of the collusion question, right? Because WikiLeaks was...
So again, this is all speculate. If. He goes, if it was, this is horror. Again, why don't you go verify the fucking email? You have everybody at NBC to help you. You have a quadrillion-dollar company to help you. You have unlimited resources. Why don't you go try to find out? Why don't you go figure it out? That's mind-blowing to me. This is your job.
He's the intelligence and national security correspondent.
So he's their top guy on intelligence, right? He's their intelligence reporter. And he's reporting speculation as fact, which is journalism. That's an affront to journalism 101. That's journalism malfeasance 101, reporting speculation as fact. That's not a fact.
Well, even the claims he's making, even if like their timeline was correct, it's still like he just said, like at the end of what we just played, this gets at the heart of the collusion question. Does it?
Does it?
You don't know who this person is that sent the email. How does that get to any collusion question?
Mike Erickson at yahoo.com really sounds like somebody you can trust. By the way, I love the way Glenn Greenwald examines Ken Delanian. He says...
you mean this guy?
Yeah. He says, Delanian, whose career in the U.S. media continues to flourish, the more he is exposed as someone who faithfully parrots what the CIA tells him to say.
Yeah, so if you think that the CIA still isn't pushing stories to reporters, I have some proof that they're still doing that. Okay. He just reports it as fact. This is awesome. Awesomely horrible.
Acting as an agent of Russian intelligence, publishing hacked emails that hurt the Democrats and help Donald Trump.
And Ken, Donald Trump, and I want to bring in Zeke Miller and Alana Shore, who are with me here, and stay as part of the conversation there, pal. But Donald Trump loved WikiLeaks on the campaign trail. He talked about him again and again, despite real concerns from members of the intelligence community that was a huge mistake. This seems like a significant development.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the president, now president, then candidate Trump, encouraged WikiLeaks to hack Hillary Clinton's, emails out of their offer server. But the question is, who was this actually from? Was it legitimate? Is it from WikiLeaks? And then also, what, if anything, did the Trump campaign and people around Donald Trump do with it?
Right, what was the response?
Did they ignore it? Did they open the email? Did they click the link? Did they download these emails?
Ken, do we know? Do we have any guidance on that?
No, we have asked, and we are waiting a response from Donald Trump Jr.'s lawyer. And right, one of the big questions is, did they call the FBI, for example?
Right.
They haven't done that in other cases where overtures from Russians came in, offering incriminating information about Hillary Clinton. But you're absolutely right. That is a huge question. We're trying to answer it right now.
And keep in mind, Holly, only one of 3 congressional investigations into Russia is really functioning right now. And that's the Senate Intelligence Committee's investigation. The House is a partisan mess. The Senate Judiciary Committee has become a partisan mess, in large part over whether to bring in Donald Trump Jr. and subpoena him over this exact question. So Donald Trump Jr. is about to come into the Senate Intelligence Committee any day now. And this is an
we don't know when yet.
We don't know when yet, but it's kind of a political tinderbox on the Hill right now over him and this exact issue.
Now, Donald Trump Jr., Ken, has already come. We saw him just this week coming over to speak with House investigators.
That's right. And we are getting the Democrats on that committee, to speak to the point of your other guests, are very dissatisfied with how that 8-hour interview went. They're saying that he did.
Okay.
Because they got no dirt. That's why they're very disappointed.
Here's the email.
Oh, it is at yahoo.com.
So it is Michael Erickson, me98 at yahoo.com. That's where this came from.
Sounds like a reliable source.
I think we need to get him on the phone. Arno, dial 8675309.
Nobody knew who that guy was. That guy who you just heard from, their ex-specialist at MSNBC who reports speculation as fact. He doesn't know who that guy is. The gentleman from CNN who broke this story. Do you still call it a breaking story if it's no story? Who pretended to break this story? He doesn't know who this guy is. He admitted, I don't know who. No one knows who this guy is. So this is, and he admitted he hadn't seen the frickin' email. Isn't that amazing? And so there it is, Michael Erickson, and it's sent 9/14/2016, 2:03:48 p.m. So there you go. Dear Mr. Trump, WikiLeaks has uploaded another huge archive of files. Michael J. Erickson, President, Aviation Management, Inc. That's what it says.
And President Drone Cohabitation Services.
So that's who that guy is, I guess. So, and Glenn Greenwald put this in his article. He caught this. Here's a guy from Brookings, Benjamin Witz. Is that how you pronounce his last name? So he puts the story up with the, and it just says, boom. Boom. Ah, wow. Nothing. You remember the other day Ari Melber tweeted out just the date? Remember that? Bam, that was going to be the thing. Turns out Brian Ross was wrong. That reporting was wrong. Boy, people love to be, dramatic about this, right? That's what that is. So there's lots of more. That's just one example. There's lots of more examples like that.
Glenn Greenwald also included in the Intercept article, he has a clip where it's a title from a news source that says, LA Times disowns reporter outed as a CIA collaborator. And that's your good friend, Ken Delanian, that we just saw report.
¿Por qué tenemos que venir a un centro de servicio Toyota?
¿Confiarían sus vacaciones a cualquiera?
Lleva tu Toyota a los expertos para mantener tu auto como nuevo.
That we just saw report.
Wait a minute. Are you kidding me?
LA Times disowns reporter. If you go to the Intercept article and you scroll down, and it's right after Delanian, Ken Delanian's on NBC news correspondent. And if you just scroll right below it, you'll see the headline embedded in there. LA Times disowns reporter outed as a CIA collaborator. Ex-Tribune reporter said to have collaborative relationship with CIA. Recently released emails indicate that prominent national security reporter Ken Delanian, formerly with the Los Angeles Times, currently with the Associated Press, and from 1997 to 2007, the Philadelphia Inquirer, shared stories prior to publication with CIA press office seeking their approval, according to the story.
So this is the guy?
Yep.
LA Times is that's him.
Yes, it is, Jimmy.
That's the guy we just heard from. The guy who repeats CIA speculation as fact. Ex-Tribune reporter said to have collaborative relationship with CIA. That's the guy MSNBC uses?
Mm-hmm.
That's the guy. And you wonder why people get their news from YouTube? You wonder why people don't trust the fucking mainstream news media? You wonder why Donald Trump became goddamn president? Because people don't trust a goddamn thing anybody says. They certainly don't trust the Democratic Party. Hillary Clinton had the lowest honesty ratings of any Democratic nominee in history. God damn it. This is unbelievable. Look at that. That's that guy.
Yeah.
What the F?
As a side note, I really hope Glenn Greenwald is planning on doing a documentary on all this, because he's been doing an excellent job documenting all this.
Yes.
Like he's basically been a documentarian of this whole thing, and a lot of other people have been doing great stuff too. But he's really been kind of like a nucleus for keeping track of this.
And there's no amount of shame, Ron, that will stop these people. Because there's money in it. Like Rachel Maddow, they did articles about how much time she spends on it, and they embarrass her. And, that video we did about it, Rachel Maddow's losing her mind and people are noticing, that has over 300,000 views for a little stupid YouTube show.
Mm-hmm.
And...
Well, we covered polls out there that indicate this stuff, where it's like 6% of people, care.
6%.
And they spend 75% of the time on this stuff. I mean, it's absolutely, a parody of itself.
MSNBC has become, they're Fox News now.
Yep.
And so they're now just as bad as...
And so no CNN reporter is going to go be suspended? No MSNBC or NBC reporter is going to be suspended?
No, they just said they had independently confirmed it, Steph, and no one's going to be suspended for that. I just showed you how they said it was independently confirmed.
And they're going to continue to rely on those two sources.
And we don't know who
they're still insisting on protecting, too. Those two sources.
Yeah, they're protecting. The two sources who gave them bogus information. You're supposed to out people who give you bogus information.
Unless they're from the CIA.
Oh, maybe they're from the CIA. Oh, maybe they're from the Congressional Committee. Maybe they're top Democrats who you get a lot of information from all the time. Or maybe they're CIA guys who you get information from all the time. I'm going to guess it probably maybe both.
I want to share one more quote from the Intercept. From Glenn Greenwald. No matter your views on those political controversies, no matter how much you hate Trump or regard Russia as a grave villain and threat to our cherished democracy and freedoms, it has to be acknowledged that when the U.S. media is spewing constant false news about all of this, that too is a grave threat to our democracy and cherished freedom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the news, again, thank you, Bill Clinton, for deregulating the telecommunications industry so we only have 6 companies bringing us the news. That's fantastic. Again, thank you, Bill Clinton, and your neoliberalism. And thank you, MSNBC, for pretending neoliberalism is not the problem, because that is the problem. Okay, well, there you have it. There you have it. There you have it. And you wonder why people get their news from YouTube. Please make sure if you think you're subscribed, you're probably not. We get emails every day.
Yeah.
Someone got unsubscribed from our show 3 times.
Yep.
3 times. One
3
person
times.
unsubscribed 3 times. So please make sure you're still subscribed and click the bell. And I don't know if you've noticed, our subscriber numbers have slowed. We were adding around, a lot. We were adding around 15 to 30,000 subscribers a month at one point. And now it's really slowed to a trickle, and it's because they keep unsubscribing all the people. And another guy sent me a screenshot yesterday.
Yeah, I was going to say, like if you think, like, these people just don't know. No. People are sending us screenshots. Like, this is really happening.
People sent us a screenshot where he said that he was watching our video, went to subscribe, and it came up, there is a problem subscribing.
Yeah.
That was the message.
Stopped it on his TV.
Stopped it.
Yeah, like as he was trying to watch it on his TV.
So please make sure you do that. And, we're in the fight of our lives. Independent media, telling the truth in a time of universal deceit is a revolutionary act. And that's what we're doing.
¿Para dónde tú vas?
A botar la basura. ¿Para dónde tú crees que voy?
Lo que te hace sentir bella, encuéntralo en Walgreens. Compra uno y lleva uno con 50% de descuento. Combina tu gusto en desodorantes para mujeres y hombres. Válido en la tienda y en línea del 6 de mayo al 2 de junio con la tarjeta. Visita hoy mismo tu Walgreens más cercano.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Jimmy Dore Show. I'm here with Rob Laco and his new haircut.
Thanks for noticing, Jimmy.
Fantastic. The shorter you cut it, the more it looks like you have.
That's
I know
right.
that trick. So I wanted to work. You have an interview coming up with Aaron Matei from The Real News, and I wanted to talk to him about this interview that he did with a guy named Luke Harding. There's Luke Harding. That's his name. And this is the book he wrote. It's called Collusion. Now, we've been making the case that why we oppose Trump on most everything he's doing and think that he is a blotch on everything. He was the logical conclusion to both political parties turning their back on the working people and the middle class and the poor and everybody except the upper couple percent. So, and we've been debunking this whole Russia thing, which we've said is the Democratic Party's idea. So don't look at what we did. We ran a neoliberal. So this is neoliberalism, and they don't want to say that's the problem. So they say Russia. So you know what we've been saying, and there has never been any proof. None. We've had William Binney on, NSA whistleblower, to show you there's no proof, and that and when they say collusion and hacking, what do they ever mean? You ask people, what does that mean? When you go, what's the crime? Because you have to start at a crime, right, Ron? You have to start at a crime of, okay, well, Trump colluded with Russia. Start at the crime. What was the crime? What was the crime? Trump hacked the DNC server? No. The Russians hacked it, even though William Binney said that didn't happen and all that stuff. So, I don't want to go through the whole thing again.
You're not a patriot.
Watch our interview with William Binney. Watch that. And then to show you how much there's a nothing there, Aaron Matei did this interview with Luke Harding, who wrote a whole book on this called Collusion, wrote a whole book on it. He's a journalist from The Guardian. And he asked I'm just going to show you the first 3 minutes. They talk for almost a half an hour. We're just going to show you the first 3 minutes. It's comical. It's comical. Here we go.
I'm joined now by the book's author, Luke Harding, a veteran journalist for The Guardian and the paper's former Moscow correspondent. Luke, welcome. Let's start with the book's title. Do you think there actually was collusion?
I think we're already across the line in terms of collusion. I think actually you have to go back a long way to see when it began to Donald Trump's first trip to Soviet Moscow in 1987.
Do you think there was collusion? Oh, way beyond. We're going to go back to 1987. So the Russians knew he was going to be president in 1987. Oh my God. Talk about who was president of Russia then? Kreskin. Not a lot of people know that. Kreskin sounds like Kremlin. Kreskin, he could see the future. So again, that's his first question. That's the first question about collusion. Was there really collusion? And he goes, "Oh hell yeah, you got to go back."
Paid for by the Soviet Union, where he was discussing hotel deals. And I think we can say, and I'm sure this is something that Robert Mueller is looking at, that there's a kind of long-term relationship. That doesn't mean that Donald Trump is an agent or a KGB colonel, merely that there's been a kind of transactional deal going back a very long way indeed.
That because that's also an assertion of the infamous Steele dossier, that there is a transactional relationship between Trump and the Kremlin, and that Putin has been cultivating Trump for several years now. But explain why you think that is, and why you think there's evidence of a transactional relationship.
Well, I think you just have to kind of look at what's happened. We had Donald Trump's trip back in the kind of late Cold War period, and I talked to a whole number of sources for this book, some in Moscow, some in London, some in Washington, some defectors. I met with Chris Steele, the author of the dossier as well.
He met with Chris Steele, the author of the dossier, which sounds impressive until you realize Chris Steele didn't fucking meet with anybody who he talked to write the dossier. And he paid people to tell him stories. And that's all the dossier was. That's literally what it was. A guy, Chris, he had money to throw around. He called people he knew 15 years earlier in Russia. He doesn't even speak Russian. He calls them, says, "I got some money if you have some stories on Trump." They're like, "Oh, we got stories. You got money? We got stories." So he says, "I've talked to Chris Steele, who didn't meet with anybody." All right, here we go. Did you want to say?
No.
And I think what you have to understand is the fact that the sort of Soviet state and its Russian successor is very keen on kind of cultivating people, particularly Americans. And bringing Trump over for this kind of trip was pretty unusual. It was what's known in the intelligence trade as a kind of classic cultivation operation. And we know from leaked KGB memos, the kind of person they were looking for during this period was...
First of all, how could it be unusual that they brought him over if it's a classic operation? So that's a contradiction, right? Am I out of my mind? He goes, so it was unusual that they brought him over to do this thing. That's classic what they do. What? He just did that, right?
Yeah, he did.
Okay. All right.
Someone who was vain, narcissistic, interested in money, perhaps unfaithful in their marriage. And basically, Donald Trump kind of ticks every single box. And when I was researching this, I tracked down the daughters of the Soviet ambassador at the time, who went up to Trump Tower, flattered Trump and said, "You've built the most wonderful building in America." And so it goes on. And I think it's gone through phases.
What?
What's going on?
What the fuck was that? There was some girls who went to Trump Tower to tell him he built a great building, and so collusion. What?
Yes, and then there was that guy that he talked to that didn't actually talk to anybody.
That didn't actually talk to
anybody.
Too. There's that guy.
Para todos los ojos que les da picor y se ponen llorosos cerca del polen, existe Flonase Sensimist. Alivia todos tus peores síntomas, incluyendo congestión nasal, lo que no hace la mayoría de las pastillas. Y todo de un suave rocío que apenas ni sientes. Flonase Sensimist.
Didn't actually talk to anybody.
That didn't actually talk to anybody.
Too.
There's that guy.
It's gone through phases. Moscow's been interested in Trump, not interested in him. And again, most recently, according to the Steele dossier, became more interested in him from about 2012, 2013 onwards, at a time when Donald Trump was the sort of foremost exponent of birtherism. Obama was in office. And of course, we have the famous trip by Trump to Moscow in 2013 for the Miss Universe beauty pageant.
Okay, but where then is the proof of a transactional relationship?
Well, I mean, there are secret meetings, as the book says, that we now know about, some of which we have discovered about in the last few months. We have Donald Trump Jr. meeting with a Russian lawyer, now famous, Natalia Veselnitskaya, having...
That's the first thing he goes to? That's totally been debunked as nothing. That woman tried to get a meeting with him because she wanted to talk about the Majinsky Act, And what? So he figured out nothing. That's all nothing. That's all nothing.
It's like he's a crime novelist that wants to pitch his book but not give away any spoilers.
Yeah,
like, well, did the murder take place? Well, that this happens and then this happens.
Yeah.
It goes back to 1987.
So
it's a page turner.
So it's hilarious. This keeps happening through the rest of the interview. This keeps happening. He keeps asking him for proof of transactional collusion, anything, transactional relationship, and he just comes going, well, there's this thing, there was a meeting and things, and they flew him over for a trip, which is very unusual, which is classic, though, what they do, stuff like that. So here's how the interview ends with, again, the journalist asking the guy who wrote the book called Collusion for evidence of collusion, and, well, it doesn't end up well.
That he does not like Hillary Clinton. He loathes the U.S. for many reasons, including the expansion of NATO. But I think we're conflating that with evidence and a conclusion that meant that he cultivated Trump and intervened in the election. I think those two things are different.
That's your view, and it would be great if you could go to Moscow, go to Kiev, go to the post-Soviet world, talk to people from the Russian opposition, talk to human rights activists, talk to journalists whose colleagues have been murdered, and perhaps understand a little bit better the kind of state that Vladimir Putin's Russia is. I think
that has nothing to do with the topic. That's called a straw man. He's like, well, you're trying to tell me that Russia is a good place and that Putin is a good person. Well, you're wrong, because that's not what they're even talking about remotely. And he keeps this. The whole interview was that. The whole interview was him saying what a bad guy Putin was, and him saying that doesn't mean that is there evidence of collusion, and he just kept doing this. Here's how it ends.
You'd be doing yourself a service. You'd be doing your listeners a service.
I don't think I've countered anything you said about the state of Vladimir Putin's Russia. The issue under discussion today has been whether there was collusion, the topic of your book.
Yeah, I know, but you're clearly a kind of collusion rejectionist. I'm not kind of sure what evidence, short of Trump and Putin in the sauna together, would convince you. Clearly nothing would convince you.
Well, how about evidence of a crime to start with, which you've never said even what the crime was? That would be it. We have to have an evidence of a crime first. What was the crime? You won't say. And then, I don't know, actually after that, evidence linking Trump to it. That would be it.
But again, but again, well, look, this gets back to the issue. The question is whether there is any evidence so far, and I don't see it. And it looks like Luke has logged off. Is that true? Well, we've lost Luke Harding.
So that was it. Luke just went to boop. He was like, I'm done. I don't know what sort of evidence is going to take. How about evidence? Any kind, sort of, or not. Any kind of evidence. Real evidence, sort of evidence, evidence. Anything except just a made-up story that you had. So now we're going to go to the interview. We're going to talk with Aaron about that interview and Russiagate. Enjoy.
Can I just say one?
Wait, go. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, if I was Aaron, I would have sent an afterwards thank you email and end it with a smiley face.
Smiley face emoticon, which means you're a Putin puppet. Enjoy our talk with Aaron. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Jimmy Dore Show. We have a special guest here. He is host and producer for The Real News, which I'm a big fan of, and he's contributed to The Nation, which everybody likes, and he has previously reported and produced for Democracy Now!, Vice, Al Jazeera, as well as written for the Toronto Star, The Intercept, and watch this, the Le Monde Diplomatique. I said it. It's French. He's here. It's Aaron Maté. I did it. I got it right. Two French things in one introduction, and I got it right. Hi, Aaron. Thanks for being our guest.
Hi, Jimmy. Thanks for having me.
I love The Real News, and I always watch it, a lot of the stuff, and you're a great interviewer, and you recently did an interview that blew my mind, and it was with Luke Harding, and he wrote a book about Russiagate, and you asked him, for facts and what have you, that he would base his book on, and he didn't have any. And can you just tell everybody how that interview went and how it made you feel? It made me laugh.
It made me laugh too. I mean, it's funny. So Luke Harding is a former Moscow correspondent for The Guardian. He's written several books, including about Edward Snowden and Julian Assange. And he was criticized for that because he never actually spoke to either Julian Assange or Edward Snowden. And it's that, I think, same ethos that he brought to his latest book, which is called Collusion. And it's all basically alleging that Russia helped Donald Trump win the U.S. election. And it's a #1 U.S. bestseller, #1 on the New York Times paperback bestselling list, fawning interviews on MSNBC and NPR. I mean, it was everywhere. And I heard some interviews, and I was just amazed that nobody was asking him any challenging questions. And then, I was hearing questions like, "Are you afraid for your life for speaking, out against Putin and stuff?" And so anyway, we do book interviews all the time, and so I just we reached out and we arranged an interview, and we did this. What turned out to be a 30-minute or 29-minute interview. And I started off by asking him, so let's start with the title of your book. Do you actually think that there was collusion? And it proceeded from there, where he doesn't have any evidence of collusion, doesn't have any evidence of this claim that Russia hacked Democratic Party emails, and in my view of it, his argument boiled down to the fact that Putin is not a very good person; he's a bad leader.
Yes.
Which I don't know enough about Russia to really argue with. I mean, I do think that some of the portrayal of Putin is overblown, he's demonized, but certainly he does some not nice things. He's got some authoritarian tendencies. Sure. I mean, no argument there. But the topic, as I kept trying to impart to him, was collusion. And it's on that front that he didn't, in my view, offer any evidence at all.
Yes, it was. This goes back to, and the reason I bring that up is because I wish I could make the whole country sit down and watch that interview. And it's, like you said, about 29 minutes long. And it just exposes that as someone who's being heralded in the establishment and the mainstream press has written a book about collusion, actually there is no there. There was nothing there. And when you pushed him on it, he would use a lot of mealy-mouthed words like sort of and like this, and you've got to understand and stuff like that. But there was never any facts or proof, which is the problem. And, it's all about, well, you have to understand that these guys are bad guys and you have to trust the CIA, and it just doesn't make any sense. How is it that you're not you didn't buy into the Russiagate stuff? How come that you see through it like we do here at the Jimmy Dore Show as just a amazing this is how propaganda works, right? This is how it works. You get the establishment in bed with the media. It gets clicks, it gets ratings, it sells papers, and so that's how it keeps going. Everybody gets rewarded financially for doing it, right?
Exactly. I mean, that's what it is. I mean, I read Chomsky growing up. I like Glenn Greenwald. I like your show, but it doesn't take a special power. You don't have to like Glenn Greenwald or the Jimmy Dore Show to be skeptical of government claims. I mean, especially if you're a journalist, that's just what you're supposed to do, is be skeptical of what officials tell you is true, right?
So can I just let me interrupt you for 1 second? Is that I was on a news show recently, and they asked, well, how do you approach this? Meaning the Russiagate thing. And I said, well, I just approach it that the government is lying, and then we go from there. And they all laughed at me. I'm like, I thought that's what journalists were supposed to do, no?
Yeah, but even then, I mean, even if you actually, believe your government or have the tendency to believe your government, at least you want to see some evidence, and that's the point here. Is like there literally is nothing. I mean, a year ago, we had this intelligence report from handpicked analysts from 3 agencies, handpicked by James Clapper. James Clapper, who has said publicly that he thinks Russians are genetically predisposed to mislead people. And this report claimed that there was a Russian operation to influence the election through email hacks and through social media and through its outlets, RT and Sputnik, which nobody except for a very small number of people, watch or listen to. And so they say that, but they didn't present any evidence. I mean, it was just obvious. And most of that report, or a lot of it, was about like this weird sort of half-baked media criticism of RT's coverage from like 7 years ago. They were talking about how they covered Occupy Wall Street. So, I mean, the report was a joke, but to answer your question, how have people taken it seriously? I think I see Russiagate as a privilege reinforcement racket. To seriously reckon with Donald Trump's victory would mean for privileged people to look at the economic system that they benefit from, and that a lot of people who voted for Trump don't, or feel that they don't, at least. But there's just a refusal to do that. And so in order to sustain your privilege, you have to find an outside culprit. And what more perfect culprit than Vladimir Putin, who for years has been demonized and targeted by the U.S. and, of course, before Putin, many other Russian governments. So it sort of converges with a very established bipartisan Washington orthodoxy to blame Russia for everything.
So, wow. First of all, that's very insightful. I guess I had kind of stumbled over a bit of that same thing in a sense where I was like, well, this is the Democratic Party not wanting to admit its own failings, but it's even bigger than that. It's right because it's, as you say, it's the ruling class that doesn't want to admit how this happened.
It's a growth industry for too many people in too powerful positions. So yes, the Democratic Party, it starts with them. We know from the book Shattered, the inside account of the Clinton campaign, that within 24 hours of Hillary Clinton losing, her team met and they decided to blame Russia and blame Comey. And they got to work. They got to work to spin this story to the media. We know that for people in the media, there's been this stream of leaks from partisan Democrats mostly who've been collecting evidence over the past year or so based on, as part of their investigations. And also from people inside the FBI and CIA who obviously don't like Trump and have been feeding selective information to fuel this Russiagate story. So if you're a journalist, you get leaks and you get bylines, you get clicks and stories, you get appearances on cable news to talk about this stuff. For cable news outlets like MSNBC, it means ratings. Like they've rode this wave to the top of the ratings. It's been great. And it has like the cachet of like a real life spy thriller. So it's kind of exciting for some people, I guess.
Yes.
And then, as I said, you have this established bipartisan Cold War establishment in Washington that,